Listen, tragedy strikes us all at some point or another. We're faced with what to do in the wake of that tragedy. Sometimes you just don't know what to do because you're unfamiliar. These are new territories. You may have help or assistance, but the truth of the matter is that you're the only one that can do it. Even if there are people who are, hugging you, rubbing your back and telling you how much they're there for you, certain things, you are the only one that can make it happen. Even though you are hurting, struggling to get through on your own. I recently experienced this, and I felt like this was a lesson that I could share with you on how using what I've been talking about this entire time works in real time. And so if you want to know about that, if you want to see what I did to navigate a difficult time in my life for a vast variety of reasons why it was a difficult time, some were unexpected reasons. And the point is that when tragedy strikes or hard times hit, it's easy to sort of like fall back and put your head in the sand and pray it goes away, even though we know it doesn't. And it's easy to try to hide behind things and just feel like you can't get things done. But I used the techniques that I teach all the time, and I was able to do what I needed to do without the stress and overwhelm that could, under normal circumstances, paralyze the best of persons. So learn how I did that. Stick around and I'll share that with you. So guys, the very first thing that I want you to think about, if you're going through a difficult time and you want to use your personal framework, know your own limits. Know how far you can go before you break. This is going to require some introspection and just really knowing what you need to do and be your best, because the truth is things happen so quickly and you just don't know what you're going to need. You don't know what things are going to come your way. So you can't account for that. But what you can account for are your own limits. How far can you push yourself before you break, before you just can't go any further, before you blow up, explode, say something that you don't want to say, have a breakdown, a meltdown? I mean, know your limits, because you're going to have to express that to people at times, without really knowing what it is they're doing. People are going to try to help you out. They're going to try to make things better for you. And in doing that, sometimes they will try to push some of their own thoughts on you, some of their tendencies, their habits. You need to know how far you're willing to go with that and just know where the line is. The next thing I would say, if this is something that you struggle with already, communication, work on it now. Work on it when it is not an issue for you and you do not have to communicate effectively to people to keep your own sanity. Because when you are stressing out over a traumatic experience, a loss, or something that is tragic and the emotions are already heightened, that is not the time to learn how to communicate effectively. So start practicing that now, because it is truly important. So the next tip that I am going to give you is to verbalize your needs. Let people know when you need things, but this requires you to know what you need to do and be your best. So this personal framework that I'm sharing with you, how to use it in, times of struggle, it's important for you to know how to communicate with people so that things aren't lost in translation. You're not full of emotion. You can speak intelligently to various points that you need to make, and you can say things in a way that people can receive, because when there is a tragedy or there is a struggle or there is a hardship, there is a tendency for us to get a little emotional and say things that we will regret later. And I'm not saying that won't happen, but I feel if you are able to communicate effectively, you know how to verbalize your needs, it is going to reduce that stress, because you'll be able to not raise your voice. You'll be able to say no without hesitation, without an exclamation point. It'll be perfectly okay with a period. It makes it a lot easier for you to get things done. I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, I'm fine emotionally, but I need you to help me with these things, or that is not what I meant. I apologize if you interpret it that way. However, this is the position I'm coming from. And being able to speak intelligently, articulately, and without the emotion that is sometimes behind words when we are in the middle of a stressful situation. So verbalizing your needs, letting people know what you want, and being able to do so and communicate effectively. That is another way that using your personal framework is going to help you in these troubled times. Okay, so I know that I haven't told you what happened, so I'll just do that before I get into my next tip. My father has been having health issues for some time now. He was gracious enough to give his sister a kidney almost 50 years ago, but unfortunately, the remaining kidney started to have challenges and the function of that kidney began to decline. My father decided he did not want to do dialysis, and so therefore his life expectancy was not very long. We've been working with him and his doctors for some time over the past few years. Last year we had a scare. This year I was called in last week to just be with him. He was in need of around-the-clock care at that point. And so I came home and everything went very quickly. I was home April 13th that weekend, around about there, for a girlfriend's 50th birthday party. So I was home that Thursday through that Monday. When I left on Monday, when I got there Thursday, he was sitting up in his chair, talking, laughing. He had just driven himself to his favorite spot, and on Wednesday came home. He thought he had overdone it. Thursday, he was up sitting in his chair talking. By the time I left North Carolina on Monday, he was in his bed with his oxygen and he just wasn't feeling well. He was having nausea and things of that nature. We discussed it, my family and I, and we thought the best course of action was that I just come back to Texas, which I did. And that was on Monday. And then the week goes by. By Saturday evening, I got a call that his status had changed. We called in the hospice nurse, who then informed me after that visit that he was in transition. So I got on a plane Sunday last week, which would have been the 23rd of April, and everything went so fast after that. Sunday, he was able to sit up on his own. He was very weak, but he was able to get out of bed and get back in bed briefly. By Monday, we had to get the hospital bed. He was barely able to talk. He was nodding his head mostly. And by Wednesday, he passed away Wednesday evening. And so when I'm talking to you about real-time usage of your personal framework, this doesn't get more real than this. And so these tips that I'm sharing with you are how I've navigated these waters and not gone completely nuts. So I know what I'm talking about, and I want you to take these tips and use them if you find yourself in difficult situations. It doesn't have to be as dire as what I'm doing and experiencing, but I feel that they really do help. So the third tip that I have for you is to set or establish boundaries when you're going through things. You know what your triggers are. You know where you are going to have issues, whether it's the way someone speaks to you or whether it's the requests that people make of you. You know how far you can stretch yourself. And if you feel like people are trying to stretch you too far outside of where you know your body can take you or your mind can take you, it is okay to set those boundaries. But I want to caution you, because people are going to try to push your boundaries. I don't think that it is an intentional thing. I think that they are truly trying to be helpful in most instances, but they do so at the expense of what your boundaries actually are. So establishing them, if you don't already have them and you aren't going through anything right now, go ahead and set some boundaries for yourself. The personal framework is the perfect boundary framework for you to use because it sets you up and you can look at everything through that lens and make better decisions. Teach people how to treat you. And I think that is so important in these trying times that we sometimes find ourselves in. So definitely set or establish those boundaries, but the key is to stick to them, abide by them. Do not let people cross them. The final tip that I want to share with you is something that I've been saying repeatedly. It's kind of like my mantra lately. And that is, well, the way I'll say it to you is set your cadence. I've been telling people when they ask me how I'm doing, I just say I'm doing okay. I'm just putting one foot in front of the other. I have sort of set the framework for what I need to do each day, and I try not to move too quickly. If I say, like today, the goal was to call. Today's a Monday. So today, the goal was to get information, paperwork information together. On Friday, the goal was to go through my father's home and just make sure that we had all the paperwork that I needed to do the paperwork today, and to clean out the refrigerator and to do the house stuff. So I don't put too much on my plate at a time. So find your rhythm for what it is you need to do. Set your cadence, and then make people walk with you if they want to help you, if they want to give you advice. I've been, with other people. Let's say I wanted to rent my father's home. Instead of trying to put that on my plate, I know someone, there was a conversation, this person rents, she has rental property. She knows everything I need to know about how to do that in this state. So I said, let's put a pin in it. And when I am ready to tackle that, I will circle back to you. My mother is phenomenal with all of the end of life paperwork and working with the clerk of courts. So I put that in front of everything. And so therefore the cadence, the rhythm that I'm doing things at is how I am also setting boundaries for myself. And I'm sticking within the limits of things that I can do. And I'm setting boundaries, because when people want to move too fast, they want to give me too much information on the wrong day. If I haven't said it for that day, I can say, I'm sorry, I hadn't gotten there yet. And I can kind of slow them down so that they're in step with my cadence. So I think that these are great tools and tips to help you if you're going through a trying time, and how you can then use your personal framework. I know I talk a lot about your personal framework, and I tell you what it is. If you've not seen that video, we will link it down below. I have an entire video on what the personal framework is, so you can check that out after this video. But if you're going through something, if you're struggling with something, my goal is to teach you how to be the CEO of you, so that you can operate as the CEO of you in any set of circumstances. I just so happen to be going through a very hard one. I am asking for your prayers. If you are someone who prays, I'd appreciate them, because our family is struggling. We have lost our father, my brother and I. So yeah, this is how I am able to get through it without pulling my hair out and being all stressed out, actually. I don't feel a lot of stress. I'm not terribly emotional, but I feel like I've put these tips in motion and they're working for me. So let me go through them one more time with you. The first one is knowing your limits. Know what you can and cannot do and what your triggers and things are. Also, verbalize what it is you need, but learn how to communicate effectively, because that can be a problem if you cannot speak to people appropriately because you're so emotional. A lot of things happen. A lot of sensitivities are brought to the surface. Nerve endings are open when you have stressful times. And so to communicate effectively is going to be how you are able to get things done better and more effectively. Also, establishing those boundaries like we talked about. And also then, like I said before, setting your own cadence and slowing people down, because that's where the overwhelming stress comes from. When people are trying to move you too quickly and you're not ready, you're trying to stay focused on something. We don't have but so much bandwidth. And so we have to be able to communicate that to people, but find your rhythm in your time of stress and slow people down if they're trying to go too fast, so that they can meet you where you are and walk alongside you instead of like dragging you around, because that is just so stressful. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. If you've not already, please subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And remember, if you like these tips and you want more about how to use your personal framework in the real world, I do suggest that you go ahead and get on our email list to learn more about the Search for Success challenge that is coming up next month. So get on that list and learn, because I'll be sending out clues for you as you're on the list. We're going to help you discover your own authentic blueprint so that you can create those success strategies and live the life that you want and the life you love. All right. See you again next week, guys. Bye.